Freaks. Today I'm going to be presenting a comparative study of two of the largest insulin products among the globe. But since November is the month of diabetes awareness, so I thought it will be a great idea to talk about diabetes and its effect on the human body. This will be my agenda. Start with the introduction. What is diabetes? So, diabetes is a disease that occurs when blood glucose is too high. Blood glucose is the main source of energy when it comes from eating food. There are three main types of diabetes: type 1, type 2, and gestational. Type 1 appears when body attacks itself, and from 5 to 10% only from diabetics only have type 1. From type 2, it happens when body insulin can't go on with the human sugar, with the human in-body sugar, and this appears from 95 to 90%. Gestational appears only when pregnant women, and this appears when she gives birth. Symptoms: dizziness, fatigue, loss of weight. Organs affected: brain, eyes, heart, kidneys, and much more. So, before insulin, the only option of diabetics was the starvation diet to control their blood sugar. They were limited on their food intake. This could postpone death by up to 2 years. 2 years was the longest diabetic could go without insulin, but in January 1922, Sir Frederick Bentley went into a hospital room full of children with diabetes, most of them unconscious, administered insulin to everyone in the room. By the time he administered to the last child, the first one woke up. The room went from hopelessness to a celebration and joy. This is the picture of the child before insulin and after. Literature review. Market type. It is an oil company market type. I talked about two kinds of trade barriers: structural and artificial. The difference between structural and artificial is that structure depends on the market type. It is naturally based. But artificial is made by the firms so that they can prevent from new entrants. Structural barriers, I talked about 3 points: high setup cost, high R&D cost, and economies of large-scale production. High setup cost deter initial market entry because they increase our break-even point and delay the possibility of making profits. High R&D cost, spending money on research and development, is often a signal and potential entrance that the firm has large financial reserves. In order to compete, new entrants will have to match or exceed this level of spending in order to compete in the future. Economies of scale. New entrants are discouraged if the market has large economies of scale that have previously been utilized by competitors. In the artificial, limit pricing, which means that the competitor firms set a low price and a high output so that entrants cannot make profit at that price. Predatory acquisition involves taking over a potential rival by purchasing sufficient shares to gain a controlling interest, or by complete buyout. Switching costs are those costs incurred by the consumer when trying to switch up suppliers. They can involve costs of purchasing or installing new equipment. Price strategies. Firms limit pricing strategy to deter entrants, which is also called by forestalling price. So let me give you a brief about both companies I'll be comparing. Sanofi. Sanofi is a French multinational pharmaceutical corporation headquartered in Paris, France. As in 2013, it was the world's fifth largest by perception of sales. The corporation was established in 1973 and merged with Centellable in 1999 to form Sanofi Centellable. In 2004, Sanofi Centellable merged with Aventis and renamed to Sanofi Aventis. It changed its name back to Sanofi in 2011.
What is the perspective of having a huge merger and acquisition from such a companies?
In order to increase their sales and revenues. Okay. Sanofi is one of the top 10 pharmaceutical companies worldwide. It launched Lantus, which is the product I'll be talking about, in December 2003. Eli Lilly and Company is an American pharmaceutical company headquartered in Indiana with offices in 18 countries. Its products are sold approximately in 125 countries. The company was founded in 1876 by Colonel Eli Lilly, a pharmaceutical chemist and a veteran of American Civil War. Eli Lilly launched his first insulin product, Humalog, in February 2006, and it is ranked the 13th place all over the globe. So, market volume for both countries. Sanofi yearly produce approximately 48 million Lantus pen, while Eli Lilly yearly manufactures around 2,558,319 Humalog insulin pens. And these are the global shares in percentages.
So they are having equal shares, so they are competing against each other.
Yes. Approximately. Okay. SWOT analysis. Strength, skill staff, availability of labor, setting management. Skilled staff. All group of workers in pharmaceutical enterprise are extraordinarily professional. They are hired most effective once they have spent a great quantity of time in trainings. These group of workers are the spine of the enterprise. Availability of labor. This enterprise desires an excessive quantity of manpower and chemical resources. The nations of Africa and Asia can provide a pleasing quantity of manpower at a total low price. Setting a benchmark. Pharmaceutical enterprise has set an extraordinarily excessive benchmark for the scientific enterprise. It's regarded true that the pharmaceutical enterprise is a subsector of the scientific enterprise. Weakness, lengthy decision-making process, and low employee morale. Lengthy decision-making process. This is a huge and broad industry. As a result, creating a brand new or current choice may take some time before it's far well finished. The entire operation is slowed as a result of this. The main reason of this is that every agency has its own administrative and chairman. Low employee morale. Employees in this business are unmotivated. This is the cause for the poor output rates, because numerous psychological studies show that when morale is poor or non-existent, human performance suffers. As a result, low employee morale is a huge problem.
So what is 8.5? What does 8.5 stand for?
No, it's the measure of the sugar level in the blood. It's a sample.
Thank you.
Okay. Opportunities, government support, and patents. Government support. This business is typically favored with the assistance of the government. As a result, they receive all the government's aid and assistance that they require. It is also the component for which the business is still thriving today. Patents. Pharmaceutical business develop new and powerful drugs. If a single business creates it, it may be able to patent the product and benefit handsomely. This endangers the company capacity to grow. Threats. New competitors. Since industrialization, the number of competitive industry has grown. Many people are interested nowadays to start up a medicine or a pharmaceutical business, especially in the COVID-19 days. Inflation. expense inflation is a constant, unavoidable problem. Inflationary price increases, especially in the region where raw materials are already expensive. The criteria are out of reach for many agencies in the business. This causes manufacturing costs to soar, resulting in lower revenues. SWOT analysis. Okay. Political. I'll start up with a regulatory frameworks. Almost every country has a tight regulatory framework that the pharmaceutical business must follow. The regulatory framework, together with several government agencies and different drug-related legislations, established the ground rules for conducting business in the pharmaceutical sector. Pricing pressure. In the United States,
So the picture of this poor person is for the pricing pressure because he is suffering from diabetes or from what?
something like that.
Okay.
In the United States, pharmaceutical companies are allowed to charge whatever they want for pharmaceutical drugs. This has created great debate in the recent year, since many pharmaceutical corporations prefer to offer their drugs at extremely expensive costs, when such medications, coupled with diabetes treatments, are essential to another person's survival. Charging such a steep price seems especially unfair. Economic. Growing healthcare spend. Family healthcare costs may be trending increase. That is to say, the average person spends more and more money on healthcare, such as medication each year. Regardless of the reasons behind this, it can only mean increased revenue for the pharmaceutical sector. Socio-cultural. Aging population. As healthcare has improved across the board, industry is now presented with the problem of aging population. This strategy is based on the assumption that the typical individual is now older than ever before. Older persons frequently have more significant fitness issues than younger people. As a result of the aging population, this industry now have additional fitness issues to deal with. This increased demand for pharmaceutical industries and products and may result in an increase in sales for pharmaceutical sector. Growing obesity rates. While poverty-related diseases like malaria and AIDS have declined dramatically in the recent year, affluent-related illness are growing more widespread. Weight problems are a severe fitness issues in a developed country, despite the fact that they are no longer considered diseases. Furthermore, the rate of obesity is quickly growing. There are several secondary fitness difficulties that are related with the weight issues, and many of these require pharmaceutical treatment. And trend, despite the aging society obesity rate, there is a trend toward becoming more fitness aware, particularly in developed countries. It is becoming fashionable to live a healthy lifestyle among younger and middle-aged folks. Technological. Growing biotechnology industry. Biotechnology is the science of use of living organisms to improve human life in fields such as agricultural, food, science, and medication. It is the role of biotechnology in medicine, in particular, that will have an impact on pharmaceutical sector. As new medicines are developed for pharmaceutical sector, developed for various organic sectors, pharmaceutical companies may have a far broader range of medication. Direct advertising. Businesses in all sectors now have a one-of-a-kind opportunity to promote directly to their customers. This is made possible via the use of technology, specifically in the cutting-edge commercial structure that allow manufacturers and to communicate with customers on their preferred portals. considering pharmaceutical items are crucial, the government constantly utilizes regulations to combat fraud involving expiry dates and the creation of batch of pharmaceuticals. If corporations fail to follow the established criteria, it may risk legal action. Legal rules for operation and researches. Pharmaceutical firms should follow to tight legal rules when developing the foundation to their operations and research. They assure that product safety is high. It assists them in avoiding legal complications. Environmental. Because the manufacture of pharmaceuticals has high carbon footprint, several nations are enacting rules to reduce the CO2 emission in order to keep the environment more healthy. Porter's model. Threat of new entrants. The high payoff offered the pharmaceutical sector result in a continuous flood of new
Why you are
startups.
preparing for the model?
Hmm?
Why you are preparing for the model?
To show the threats of new entrants, power of suppliers, power of buyers, and availability of substitutes in order to compete with other businesses. Okay. This is the demand curve of Lantis. It is upward sloping, which means that violation exists.
So there's no negative relation.
No negative relation.
Why it's not a negative relation?
Because Lantis or insulin products, in more general way, are a necessity. So when price increases, people will still demand on it. Go on. The same goes here. It's also upward sloping. Okay. Factors affecting demand. Price of related goods, percentage of people diabetic, and the role of government in covering price. Price of related goods means when one product has the price increase, the demand on the other product increase also. Percentage of diabetics. In USA, there are 34.2 million individuals in USA are diabetics, which represents 10.5% of the total population. The role of government to cover the price of insulin. Price of insulin is increasing day after day, and the government can't afford to cover this price, so poor people can't afford insulin, which leads to death. So, as shown in the graph.
So this one is you. Go back. This is one is you. Yes, okay.
Violation exists, which means that this product is not price sensitive, which means that it's inelastic. So conclusion, pharmaceutical industry, economic growth is always increasing due to its necessity. Sanofi and Lilly are both oligopoly. Lantus and Humulec insulin pens are not price sensitive. Violation exists in both demand curves. Both products are inelastic.
So what you gain from this?
I gained that oligopoly market, specifically pharmaceutical industries, are a necessity so that factors affecting demand on it are limited. And it's also always upward sloping in the demand curve, which means that it's always inelastic. So people will not stop getting sick. Thank you.